Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive straight into our Week 13 buy lows. Let's go and win some leagues. G'day guys, I'm D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible here on the Believe in Fantasy Basketball Network. Like I said, we're going to go straight into our Week 13 buy low trade targets. I've got my top 5. We'll also go through the top 10 Yahoo most traded players, and I'll give you a few extra as well, just as a bit of a nice little treat as well. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all things NBA Fantasy Bible. Let's get into it. Okay, Week 13 buy lows. Starting off with the top 10 Yahoo most traded players for today, January 13th. Number 1, Trae Young. Pretty interesting new team. Not sure if he's going to play much for the rest of the season, if at all, but people are still buying low nonetheless. Now, you don't want to be offering up too much, but I guess it's a high risk, high reward move. I'm personally staying away from Trae, but he could come back sooner rather than later. But for now, I'm staying away from Trae Young. Number 2 on the list is J-Dub, Jalen Williams. He's underperformed for the entire season. We went through some of his numbers last week as well. We'll touch on it again this week, but we won't go into a deep dive like we did last week, but still a buy low nonetheless. Number 3, we will touch on him again. That's 2 consecutive weeks, but Bam Adebayo is definitely a buy low and a red hot buy low candidate at that. Number 4, Anthony Davis. Probably worse situation than Trae Young. I don't know if he's going to be back in time for fantasy playoffs, but people are still trading for him nonetheless. Number 5, Devin Booker. He has underperformed at the Suns the entire season, but I still think he is a bit of a buy low. Jalen Green returning may actually help him. Number 6, LaMelo Ball, playing some nice basketball at the moment, so perhaps this is a bit of a sell high. Number 7, Miles Turner. He has perennially been on the buy low list or the most traded players list. Having said that, a bit of a flop of a season. So at this stage, unless you can get him for chips, I'm not going to offer too much for Miles Turner. Number 8, Tyler Hero. Number 9, Stefan Castle. And number 10 is Desmond Bane. He's definitely underperformed. And that is without Franz Wagner there as well. So very disappointing for those that do have Desmond Bane on their team. Now let's get into my top 5, starting with the aforementioned Bam Adebayo. You can see the ADP, he was still being drafted in the 3rd or 4th rounds, typically in the 3rd round of drafts. As you can see, Yahoo 32, ESPN 28, and Fantrax 28, and he has not delivered, and he's actually been, he's not Miles Turner level flop, but he's been extremely disappointing this season. It hasn't looked really good for his fantasy value alongside Kelly Webb. However, as we discussed last week, I think Tyler Hero being back, and also, we've seen recently in the last 2 games, Kelly Ware has actually come off the bench behind Bam Adebayo, not alongside. And I think that will help Bam in the long run if that's the way that Spo does actually continue to go with things. Having said that, the last 2 games has actually been pretty pitiful as well. Now, across the course of the season, in 9-cat, 108th. In 9-cat -1, 125th. And in points leagues, a lot better, 55th. A lot of that can be attributed to some horrific shooting, particularly from the field, but also the long gone are the days of 80% from the free throw line. He's shooting it at mid-70s across the course of the season, but even worse across the last 2 weeks. Now, you can see the numbers across the last 2 weeks, 178th in 9-cat, 155th in -1, and 82nd in points league. So definitely a buy low. But if you were to look at his numbers across the last week, even worse reading if you do have Bam Adebayo, but even better, great opportunity if you want to buy low on Bam Adebayo. In the last 7 days, in 9-cat, 229th ranked player. This is across 3 games as well. And yes, that is a small sample size, but if you look at the entire season, he's just underperformed. I do think he can turn it around. The pedigree is there. Spo trusts him. The defensive numbers aren't there. It's not just the shooting, but the defensive numbers have just disappeared recently. So I think he can get that back. He's 31 games into the season, so there's still a long way to go. I think he can turn it around. We've seen the course of his career that he is a top-tier player. He's just not showing it at the moment. But take advantage of those situations. Take advantage of the manager that is extremely frustrated with Bam Adebayo right now. So buy low on Bam. De'Aaron Fox is the next one. Now, he's been pretty average this season. Definitely hasn't lived up to that high ADP. Around that 40 to 50 mark, you can see on Yahoo 41, ESPN 37, and Fantrax 57. 9-cat, he's been the 70th ranked player across the course of the season. 71 in -1 and 47th in points league. So a lot better in points leagues. But we knew coming in, the usage of obviously was going to be shared. It's a deep roster, but of course you got the superstar in Wembanyama. So we're not going to see the De'Aaron Fox of yesteryear of the Sacramento Kings, but he's still been disappointing nonetheless. Now, across the course of the last 2 weeks, outside the top 100 in 9-cat, 52nd in points league, so not too bad. Just some really bad shooting. Similar theme that we'll discuss later on tonight with quite a few of these players, Bam included, Kentucky teammates as well. So both really struggling at the moment. Now, in the last 7 days, the numbers are actually worse. Similar to Bam, but De'Aaron Fox's numbers over the last 4 games have been horrific. Take advantage. I'm not going to go through every single line item, but yeah, he's just been really disappointing. He can get better. So take advantage of De'Aaron Fox's downturn at the moment. The third one is Karl-Anthony Towns. The last game was much improved. However, there is still an opportunity to buy low, even though he did play a lot better in the last game. Across the last 2 weeks, 107th ranked player in 9-cat, 91st in 9-cat -1, and 63rd in points leagues. He hasn't met the expectations of the preseason ADP. We were getting him at the end of the first round. We did tell you guys to stay clear or try not to draft Knicks too high because we knew that it wasn't going to be the Knicks of old with Thibs just running them into the ground. And we've seen that the minutes have tapered off just a little bit, even though across the last 2 weeks as well for Cat as well. But I think you can turn it around. We saw what he can do in the last game as well. He got a couple of blocks and he shot above 50%. So that's more like it, but we want to see more of that. I still think that, yes, recency bias is a thing. So perhaps it is a little bit more difficult to execute. But I think if managers are just looking across a larger sample size, I think you can exploit that and buy low on a second round, a bona fide second round player in Karl-Anthony Towns. The next one, Ivica Zubac. Now, has just recently come back from injury, has played 6 games since his return, and those 6 games have been horrific. Now, across those 6 games in the last 2 weeks, and he did come back about a week and a half ago, but across the last 14 days, 134th ranked 9-cat player, 131st in -1, and 112th in points leagues. Definitely disappointing compared to his numbers across the course of the season, but he'll turn it around. His backup is Brook Lopez, and we know that Brook Lopez is not going to take that starting position away from him, and he's not going to take a lot of minutes away from him either. Ivica Zubac is going to play some big minutes, and the Clippers are trying to contend for that playoff berth or play-in berth as well. So Ivica Zubac is going to have a big say in that down the stretch. So buy low when you can because he is ramping up, but I think that ramp up won't take too long as well. Buy low on Ivica Zubac. The fifth and final of my top 5 is Ryan Rollins. Now, you may look at the last 2 weeks and go, that's not too bad. 72nd compared to his overall rank of 61st in 9-cat. Similar for 9-cat -1 and points leagues. But if you were to compare that to the last week, it doesn't make for good reading if you do have him. Yes, 3 games, but those 3 games, he has shot horrifically. Just terribly, terribly, terribly. And we know that he does get a lot of his value, not just from his shooting, his points, but also his defensive stats. His defensive stats have come down. 1.5 steals across the course of the season has come down to 0.7 steals over the last 3 games as well. So definitely very disappointing for Ryan Rollins. But again, that gives us the opportunity to go and buy low. Perhaps the additional impetus to go and buy low is perhaps the manager is hearing these rumors around potentially Ja Morant going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, if that is the case, yes, Ryan Rollins may be squeezed out, depending on who actually goes the other way. Again, it's all hypothetical, and a lot of these rumors don't tend to happen if they are longer-term rumors as well. So I'm going to bank on Ryan Rollins just turning things around and perhaps the trade not happening as well. But if a trade does happen, perhaps it's KPJ that goes away. Again, hypotheticals here, but across the course of the season, he's been outstanding. Undrafted in a lot of Yahoo leagues and really late draft picks in ESPN and Fantrax. He was one of my sleeper picks, but I didn't expect it to be this good. But take advantage of the last 7 days. Ryan Rollins shooting horribly and not getting the steals that we expect of him. So go buy low on Ryan Rollins. Just some other quick buy lows while I've got you here. Stefan Castle, I mentioned earlier, he's just shot horrifically. I've loved it because I was on the positive side of that. My opponent in one of my main leagues actually had Stefan Castle, and he actually obliterated his field goal percentage. So kudos to me, but not to those that do have Steph Castle. DeAndre Ayton, we mentioned him last week, but again, still another buy low opportunity, as is the case with IQ, Emmanuel Quickly. Drew Holiday's ramping up. Denny Avdia is probably going to miss one, perhaps even 2 games for the Portland Trailblazers. The ramp up is going to take a little bit of time, but I do expect Drew Holiday to ramp up, not probably to the point where he was pre-injury, but I still think he can be a top 100 player. Alperen Şengün is another guy coming back from injury. The first game back was disappointing. So again, it's that ramp up stage as well. So perhaps you can convince the manager to let him go for a bit of a discount there as well. Kobe White, he seems to be ramping up for the entire season. But again, he hasn't played that many games across the entire season. So I still think there's room for improvement with the Chicago Bulls. Again, trade deadline is about 2.5 weeks away. So we don't know what's going to happen with the Chicago Bulls. But again, assuming that nothing happens, and sometimes that's the case, assuming nothing happens, I think Kobe White will have that top 60 to 70 type of rest of season play as well. At the moment, he's outside the top 200, closer to that top 300 as well. So extremely disappointing, but he can turn things around very quickly. Julius Randle, just a slight drop off, but again, take advantage where you can. Jaylen Brown, again, he missed yesterday for a little bit of a rest. But again, his shooting hasn't been great over the last week as well. So perhaps there's a small window of you buying low on Jaylen Brown. Anthony Edwards, his free throw percentage has been bad recently and the steals have come down. But again, that's a small sample size. But if another manager does play into that recency bias and they're a little bit frustrated, perhaps they lost last week or they're really struggling at the moment in the standings, take advantage where you can on Anthony Edwards. Same goes for Jalen Williams. Again, came into the season, we talked about him last week, came into the season underdone, injured, and he hasn't met the expectations that we have of J-Dub as well. So again, buy low. Hasn't really changed across the last fortnight. A little bit down on total overall numbers, which is not saying a great deal because he has been down on last season's numbers as well. And Devin Booker, another one similar to J-Dub, just hasn't met the expectations, has got nowhere near his ADP, and just slightly off compared to last season. But again, I mentioned it earlier in the show. I think Jalen Green coming back to that team does actually help Devin Booker. Hopefully gives him more of a facilitation role. Colin Gillespie will probably move to the bench, perhaps, but also give Devin Booker more of that facilitation and assists as well. Those potential assists should come up. And I'm hoping that the threes do come up as well because maybe more attention is being paid to Jalen Green, who may get hot at times as well. And just very quickly, let's look at some injury buy lows. And I mention this every single week, but take advantage where you can. I talk about exploitation. I say that tongue in cheek, but perhaps you can take advantage of managers that do have a long injury list or are struggling in the standings and they're just beyond frustrated. So take advantage where you can. The guys on screen that you can see right now, they're shorter term injuries, perhaps coming back within the next few days, which is great news for those that do have them. So make sure you hold. But if you don't have them and you'd love to acquire I guess not an underperforming guy, but a guy that's been injured for a while, these are some guys to target. So Jalen Duren, I expect back any day soon. The aforementioned Jalen Green is another play. Again, that could be more suited to points leagues, but again, it could be also suited to a particular team build in 9-cap. Isaiah Hartenstein, there's been, the updates are not very convincing, but I still do expect him to come back anytime soon, hopefully within the next week. Franz Wagner's in a similar boat. Denny Avdia, I expect him to miss one. Well, I think he is confirmed out for today, but perhaps another game as well. Zach Edey, I hope he's returning soon. He is traveling with the team. I believe they're going to Europe, which is interesting. He may not play, but it is interesting that he's traveling anyway. And Josh Giddey, hopefully within a week, he is able to play 1 to 2 weeks. Some longer-term injury plays, Domantas Sabonis. Again, these guys have been injured for quite some time and coming back within the next month. But Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, Austin Reeves, and Nikola Jokic is the ultimate injury buy low stash as well. So if, again, depending on your standings and depending on your injury list, these are some guys that you may want to target as well. All right, guys, that's a wrap. They're my buy lows for week 13. Let me know what you think. Have I missed anyone? Have you been able to execute any of these trades as well? And I'd love to hear your success stories as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe all things NBA Fantasy Bible on X and also here on YouTube as well. And also do the same for Believe in Fantasy. Shout out to Robin and the guys at Believe. But until next time, guys, thanks very much. See ya.